afternoon, and good evening again. We are back again with another another story with one of our portfolio founder of Expedoza, talking about their growth journey, their experience so far. Usually, Brian jump on the call again, and he's flying to Ireland, so I have to cover here, and I'll be a moderator for the day, and then I'll pull our amazing founder Rebecca from the Blind Tiger in a few minutes from now. But before I pull her in, I have like a quick update to give you guys. So since when I flew from LA to India, it's been a couple of weeks. I was invited for to speak at the conferences and stuff in Delhi, Kerala, in Bangalore, in Hyderabad. I've been like going to these places, and I'm shocked seeing the kind of like startup ecosystem here in India is right now. Like specifically, like we have our thesis to invest sector agnostically, but we try to avoid that is very capital intensive in general. But in India, what I have seen a common pattern like the consumer market, like EVs, deep tech. These are like a booming space here as well. So I'm like, this is crazy market right now. The way economy is growing, the way VCs are putting the money in India, this is amazing. Well, I'll not bore you guys, of course, by talking a lot about Indian market in general, but you will see what Expert Dojo is going to do with the Indo-US investment landscape, the bridge that we're gonna do. We'll back our founders here. We'll take them to America afterwards. Everything about the growth and the stuff afterwards. Everything will follow. Just keep, you know, like stay tuned with us with our all the announcement that we're gonna make for everything about India, everything about in market in general, and for the world. Today we have an amazing founder. We invested in them. It's a consumer product basically. The Blind Tiger, the name of the company, and Rebecca is one of our amazing founder, growing at super exponential rate as well. I'm gonna pull her in, and then we'll talk about their journey. And I'll not bore you with our story, with our same set all the time. Kisle, can you pull Rebecca in? Hey, Rebecca.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Great to be here.
Thanks for your time. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. It's cutting a little bit, or am I cutting?
Okay, it could be me because I'm traveling, as I mentioned earlier. Like when I came from LA to India, since then like I'm just going places over places. So sometime I need to survive on my mobile network. So bear with me if I go slow a little bit sometimes. So first of all, thank you so much for your time agreeing to come on the show. So visually, like every Monday, every week, we start our day technically, or the week you can say, with this amazing growth hacking 1 hour call with our founders, and sometime with our growth hackers, the brain trust. And the purpose
Yes.
is, with the founders specifically, when we invite them to be on the call, is to know about your journey, your inspiration, your aspiration to become an entrepreneur, why you started the company, what's the pain point, what's your experience, so that the future entrepreneurs can this up connect. Sorry if you lost me, because I saw a prompt appearing. So bear with me. I'm like traveling. So if my internet goes down again, apology for that. So Rebecca, what I was saying, the audience is very broad. We have like founders watching the show, we have growth hackers watching the show, we have people in the from your market domain, your competitor could be watching the show. At the same time, investors are watching the show as well. And then it will be recorded and published on our academy page for the learning experiences as well, right? So share whatever you want to share, which could go easily out in the public, but it's more about like aspiration, and also share your growth journey with our the audience space here. And people who are watching it live right now on LinkedIn or any other social media platform, please feel free to drop us your comment and ask questions and concern, and Rebecca and I will be more than happy to answer those. So Rebecca, again, welcome to the show. Why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about what the Blind Tiger is doing?
Sure. Thanks again for having me. And yeah, so obviously I'm Rebecca Stein, and I founded Blind Tiger back in early 2021. And Expert Dojo came in about early on. I mean, like 6 or 7 months after, we were founded. So it was amazing. But just for some context, prior to launching Blind Tiger, I owned a speakeasy restaurant in Pennsylvania that I had opened back in 2017, and it was doing really well. And then COVID hit, in 2020, and just such a lovely memory for all of us. And one of the things was we were mandated to take out only. And at the time, 90% of our sales had come from the bar, but we were not legally allowed to sell alcohol to go in the state of Pennsylvania. So I wish I could have, it was just kind of an aha moment for me. We started bottling non-alcoholic versions of our cocktails, had a really great response. And I woke up one day and was like, I wonder if I can't bring this to market somehow. And, there were little hints about it along my journey. As I started to age, I started to drink a little less, even though I still really like to drink alcohol. I do like it, as you get older, you don't adapt to it as well as you did when you were younger. And I was dabbling in the non-alcoholic scene, but I didn't see a lot of different options in my journeys, for adults, right? Something more sophisticated. So I went to the team and asked them to come up with some classic cocktails, but I wanted to keep with our Prohibition era theme, which was tied to our speakeasy. And Blind Tiger was born. So Blind Tiger is a moniker for speakeasies. During the Prohibition era, speakeasies were either called Blind Tigers or Blind Pigs. And there are a couple of reasons behind that, which I can delve into later if you'd like.
That's amazing, and really, so technically, your story and what you are building is also like making people like, hey, stay healthy in life. Stop, say, going for the alcoholic drink. You can have like the. Is it taste similar than the alcoholic drink as well in general, or what?
Yeah, so, and that's a continued, I think that's a continued journey in the non-alcoholic arena in general in the market.
Mhm. Yeah.
We were able to make the cocktails taste like the cocktails, but we don't have that burn, that you would typically get from alcohol because there's very little, if no ethanol in it at all.
Hmm.
But the flavor profiles are really nice. And so they work well as just ready to drink cocktails, but they're also great mixers for people who don't want or who do want to add a spirit.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people who are trying to stop being alcoholic. I'm not saying it's good or bad,
Yeah.
but we want to try at some point in life, right? Like like I don't want to talk about the journey in general, but everyone wants to like, hey, say no to alcohol, stop drinking less and stuff like that. But then alternative product is like a way to kind of like get rid of their existing habit, right? So I think this is a huge market for like people who want to still join, like enjoy really good drinks at the same time, like have some good conversation, but to be like less alcoholic or non-alcoholic. It remind me of conversation like literally like I think 5 days back, there was like a big conference happening in Bangalore, which Expertise was part of, called Thai Global Conference, right? Even one of our portfolio companies, he got selected for the Thai women entrepreneurship kind of thing, like from the
Oh,
US.
nice.
Supposed to be here, but then she couldn't make it because of some random reason, some family concerns and stuff. Uh, but the point is like the startup that won the competition for equity free grant of 50K, like literally the company is like a beverage companies. The company name is like Bearer or something, but they do like they make alcohol, like say like 5% alcoholic drink with the waste bread, right? So they are helping, like you cannot you can stop trashing the bread, like the bread which is like kind of expired or milk
Sure.
kind of like stored and stuff like that, and then you can make the alcohol. What they are doing technically, and they also have a plan to have like non-alcoholic drink. And everyone imagine like there were like 10,000 startup applied for the competition and only one got selected and won this competition is like alcoholic drink or
Yeah.
non-alcoholic as well at the same time, like what they
Mm.
are going to do in the next segment of life. So what I'm saying, trying to make is like the market is huge, not only the US but outside the US as well, specifically countries like India. I don't know if you heard me speaking beforehand. Like in general, like our thesis is like we don't invest with anything that is very capital intensive, right? We used to do a lot of CPG and all those market back in the days when
Yes.
we started, but we stopped doing it because saturated market in general. But countries like developing countries like India, Africa, or subcontinent, sub countries in around India, like this is the huge market for the consumer product, and it's crazy market, like ghost kitchen, last mile delivery, and stuff like that. This is
Yep.
crazy. What we are seeing in India is like one company called Zepto raised more than $1.5 billion funding in
Wow.
last 3 months at 5 billion valuation. So this is huge market. I'm saying. So talking about the market penetration and in general, why don't you just talk about a little bit about your journey? Like, and you got a amazing story. You have a retail experience beforehand, and then go ahead. everyone wants to go online, and then you decided to come like launch this product. What's your background? Could we dive deeper into, like more about the company and the story of your growth and stuff? Why you thought of like launching this non-alcoholic beverage company, and what's your background? Where are you coming from? Like, and what's your aspiration going forward as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background really isn't very or it's not linear at all, right? So it's not like I grew up in the restaurant or hospitality industry. I went to my undergrad was in music, my master's
Wow.
was in public administration, and I have a PhD in leadership. So I was really like I was really into the economic viability of our community. So I was working different roles at that point, and I couldn't find what I wanted to do. But along the journey, it was kind of riddled with different things. Like I worked at a major hotel chain for a while. I was very big into event planning, as a musician. So the combination, I ultimately decided since I couldn't find what I wanted, I would create what I wanted. And that creation started as the Speakeasy restaurant, right? It was a jazz club too. So it had the combination of my music and then my little bit of my hospitality background and event planning. And so that was my thing. And the non-alcoholic thing was really just a pivot, that had become this aha moment that was like it was a market that was really just emerging at the time in the US. We had seen it like over in other countries, in Europe and Australia, and how much growth it prior to 2020. There were bigger companies out there, like there's a company called Lyres, it's Lyre', and they have done really, really well in the non-alcoholic arena. So I could see it starting to catch on here. And I think COVID just did a lot of things to a lot of people, right? And in the way that they shifted their mindset. So a lot of them drank heavily during that time. And then ultimately on the back end, we're like, okay, I need to change my lifestyle.
Of course.
So, and the younger generations were coming up, through that. And there were some that went into COVID turning 21 and they couldn't go out and celebrate. So they kind of built these different lifestyles that didn't center around alcohol. So I really think that the combination of all of that and just, the progression of time obviously has kind of led itself into that. So since we launched Blind Tiger in 2021, we originally launched in 32-ounce bottles. And they were, it was a very capital intensive kind of business, especially at that point when you're shipping product and doing all that stuff in glass. It becomes a little bit less. We ultimately switched to aluminum and have tiny little cans. And so, I mean, production costs are nice or a little more extreme, but overall, it's definitely much easier today than it was back then. So we've evolved in the last couple of years. We've kind of modified our flavor profiles a little bit. We haven't changed the actual flavor, but we took some that were like still like non-carbonated and made them sparkling, and kind of changed the name to target a broader audience. We launched with a sidecar and a south side, which are Prohibition era cocktails, but not very well known. So we made them into a sidecar mimosa and a south side mojito, which are more well-known cocktails today.
Of course.
So, and we continue to see great growth. We've done about 100% year-over-year revenue growth. Last year, we did 222% revenue growth. We're on track to finish this year a little over 100% revenue growth. It would have been more, but our raise is a little lower this year, so I was a little more cautious than I wanted to be. But we've gotten into about 20 states around the country, and we're in about 1,200 retail locations today. And we're hoping, in this journey, obviously, I want to exit within 5 years and find a company that wants to kind of really, drive it home. But my next step in this process is really to get into like travel and tourism, more in transportation, like airplanes, cruise ships, things like that, because our product lends itself so well to that.
Wow, that's great. And listen, people who are watching, we always invite the companies growing at more than 100% year over year, at least, And you got this amazing story, like since beginning, like it takes a lot of time and courage and kind of like a consistency to be at more than 1,000 retail store outlet out there. And you mentioned about your story is not linear. Honestly, non-linear path always create a huge and big success and story outside in the world. Like honestly speaking, like, I've
Yeah.
seen this kind of story. So you have like a amazing journey to cover for sure, without a doubt. And then so Rebecca, like one question is popping up in my head. I know it's like very random conversation that we are doing right now,
No, great.
but I would love to know like what's the biggest struggle for a founder or maybe like aspiring founder who want to do something in the CPG space in general, and tell me a little about whether you are focusing, what's your go-to market strategy right now? Is it more B2B side, or I know you are into retail outlet. Do you have any B2C, direct to consumer as well at the same time? Tell me about your journey, about like how, for the people who are watching who are like aspiring entrepreneur, what are the biggest challenges in the CPG market in general, like in the consumer
Sure.
product, and how they can mitigate the risk? Or technically, after 3 years of operational, any company that like past that phase, honestly, there is a product market fit that you are seeing in general, right? So you might have crossed that path, and or recently just have, okay, done. We are from Horizon One to Horizon Two now, right? And these are my experiences. So talk to me about your experiences. What are the challenges that you face personally, that you want the future entrepreneur not to be like like doing the same mistakes, specifically in the CPG domain? And your then we can talk about the GTM afterwards.
Sure. So my biggest challenge is probably, there's an advantage of the CPG space in general. Food and beverage is very saturated, right? But being a non-alcoholic brand, there's a new to market aspect, right? So you're kind of first to market. So there's an advantage there for us. But a lot of times, even when, you're looking for funding or you're looking for new retailers, that's both good and bad, right? So from like retail and funder perspective, they've, invested in a lot of CPG. Well, from a funding perspective, investors have invested a lot in CPG arena. So they have a threshold of growth they want to see before they really want to come on board, right? Because it's such a volatile kind of space. But at the same time, the non-alcoholic arena lends itself a little bit more to a new to market aspect. So it just depends on who I'm talking to, but that's kind of where that challenge lies. But also retailers, just getting on shelf and getting shelf space is a challenge all in its own right. But then you got to move it. Like you can't just get on the shelf and just let it sit there, right? You've got to find ways to promote it and build your brand and get people to come back and continue to buy it. So those are always like huge challenges for us. Especially being a new brand that doesn't have millions of dollars to throw behind it in advertising and everything. So we have to be more grassroots, more, like bootstrapping, especially this past year. But so we're trying to take our growth strategically. We're heavier into the retail sector. So about 75% of our business model is retail and 25% is direct to consumer. And our hope is that our plan is that once we raise, a little bit more funding, that shifts a little bit. Like I'd like to lean more towards 35% D2C and a little bit less on retail because the margins are so much better when
Better.
selling direct to consumer than selling retail.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I really just think it's messaging, it's, investment, and it's, it's great to be new to market, but you really have to convince people why it's going to sell, no matter what industry.
Agree, and convincing people is not about just going out there and talk to people, hey, buy my drink. It's like your
Right.
messaging, your packaging, your, like still remember the day when I like walked into Expert Dojo for the first time, and we have two of our portfolio companies drink sitting. I didn't know that they are portfolio company or not. One was Blind Tiger, and there was like alcoholic drink of Havana, like it's a cocktail.
Okay.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
invested in that company as well. And I didn't know, like for some reason I tasted both of the drink, and I'm like, oh fuck, like this is so cool. Like your packaging was amazing, by the way. And I told you
Thank
last time
you.
we spoke, by the way. So,
Yes.
and it was eye catching, and that's what you need to be doing. So I would love to know more about what's your journey like. Did you design by yourself, or what was your thought process in general being founder? Like, how do you say it? How do you mitigate all those things, like when you are a solo founder, or maybe two co-founders running the entire operation of the company, like, and you do
Yeah.
the tasks in general? So what's the strategy that you have used to find, okay, this is my final design, this is my final messaging? What are the advice that you will give to the people watching? So
Yeah, so I did not design them myself. I hired a team to do it. I have very limited capability in the design world, but so I had to trust the experts. But I went to them kind of with an overall idea, right? Like I think what is critical is staying true to your brand. Whatever your brand is keeping that messaging and look and image and feel on point throughout the process to not confuse the consumer. And ours was, kind of the prohibition era, right? So it's a little bit kind of the feathers, the art deco, like everything that was kind of glamorized during the roaring 20s is tied to our packaging. And that's what I went to them with. And they were able to create something And that wasn't like the first iteration. The first iteration was very subtle in color. I also wanted it to stand out, on shelf. So you think of all these things and you have to prioritize because you're not going to be able to do everything, especially as a startup. You're not going to be able to do everything you want to do all right out of the gate, but you
Yeah.
have to prioritize. And it's best if you can find a mentor or somebody in the CPG space that's been through this before, so you don't have to make the same mistakes or that they did. I've made a lot of mistakes in the journey, trust me, and some have been more capital uh, intensive than I'd like them to be. But it's also like if I knew then what I know now, like I would have saved, a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of heartache. So I definitely think whatever industry you're in is to have somebody in the space prior to at least know and guide you in the process.
No, I agree, and it reminds me of a phrase like that. I always follow in general. Success come from experience, and experience come from bad experiences. So bad
Yep.
experience, is what you needed in life in general, be it you're an entrepreneur or whatever professional setup you are into, right? Like, and that's how you learn. But sometimes,
Yes.
like, if you're watching this show, you can learn from the mistakes that Rebecca did, or I did.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. Or
that's
just
it.
ask me, reach out, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's the fast way to learn as well and amplify your kind of like growth journey at the faster rate, right? so
Yeah.
so my point was like asking you, of course, you didn't do all the thing being a founder. You have a team to kind of get the stuff doing. But it takes like multiple iterations in general to find one final design. It's all A/B testing in general, what looks good, what
Yes.
not, and you try it, and
Yes.
then you, based on that, you connect all the dots in general, right? So tell me a little bit about Rebecca. How did you like grow your, like, retail segment that you have from 0 to 1200 plus right now? What was
Yeah.
your market strategy? How did you convince these retailers to give you a self, so that you can, get your product out?
Sure. So part of that was actually serendipitous for us, I believe. During COVID, most things were done online, period. And somehow I started in the other, in retail, which doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. But I was connected with, there's a lot of really good resources out there. And I came across a group called the California, it's called the Lighthouse Foundation, Navigator Lighthouse Foundation, which is also based out in California.
Yeah.
And they help CPG minority and women entrepreneurs kind of, get off the ground with their product. They have such an extensive foundation in the grocery and retail arena, and they had just launched this program. So I had applied for it, I'd gotten in, and it really gave me the foundation of material and resources I needed to know where to at least look, if I was going to go down this pathway. They were absolutely incredible. And then obviously California, just the size of the state alone and the demographic population, like just to be able to go into a market starting there at that point versus like if I had launched just in my city, there would be no way I'd be able to see the growth that I'm seeing today, right? You have to find the right market to tap into. And a lot of people tell you to go deep where you're at, but if it's not there, you have to find where it is and grow it from there. So it was really just kind of, a lot of trial and error, but just that particular group and then just being really like intentional and persistent and just the continued follow-up, reaching out to people and
Yeah.
getting meetings with them. Like it's really more persistence. It's not like rocket science. It's just
Hmm.
staying on top of them and getting going after what you want.
And that's true. Like, whatever you need in life, you need to ask. Otherwise, nobody knows that, okay, what you need in life, right? Be it
Right.
your product that you want to sell or anything else. Like, literally, I've seen people reaching out to me a jillion times, like, keep following up, who are like trying to break into VCs and stuff like that. And they end up getting a job at Expedozo India because we are expanding our team in India, and we got like 4 people hired already, and we're going to hire
Oh,
more.
nice.
More. But the persistency is a very crucial thing in the venture space in general. Like,
Yes.
and that's why outreach matters a lot. Like, you send an email out every day to new people, following up on time to time basis. So hey, whatever, if you're hard selling or whatever soft selling it is, but your
Yeah.
consistency matters a lot, right? uh, and how big your team is, Rebecca? Like, how many people are there right now? And are you the solo founder that you started the company, or you got another co-founder? What's your journey? It's a little bit like building the team, finding the right people around you, so that you can vibe more, and then like have fun at the workplace at the same time, work ass off as well at the same time, right? So tell me a little bit about your team and team mechanism, team bonding in general.
Yes. So the team still needs to be much bigger. I am a solo founder. I do have I have my husband who is our CFO, but he's volunteer, and I do have one full-time person, but I have a lot of W-2, like part-time employees that either serve as brand ambassadors or sales reps or are doing like merchandising or helping, so there's a lot of different it still takes a village, but to be able to bring on, a bigger full-time team is something that I'm continuing to aim for, especially in 2025. I'm hoping to have a team of up to four full-time employees by the end
And,
of the year.
and what are the thing being founded that you look for in your potential team member that you're going to onboard specifically, so
Yeah.
that you being founder more comfortable working with the kind of like right mentality, right kind of folks? What's your thought in general? What kind of people that you want to onboard as a founder in your team?
It really is just having the desire to want to build a business. This isn't a 9 to 5 job. This isn't when you're building something and scaling something, it takes a whole different mentality. Like you really have to you have to love the product, you have to be passionate about what you're doing and the desire. I think most of this can get taught. Like, so it's not so much, it's great to have kind of a background in the CPG space when coming into work, but I think a lot of this can translate as long as you have, the desire and willingness to learn. And that's really what I look for most when I hire or bring anybody on.
That's absolutely true. Like I remember my time when I was a founder, I sold my company back in the days. I had like 30 plus team member. And then,
Nice.
if you have a motivation to do the things, honestly, things can be learned. It doesn't matter like whether you're on a space tech or defense tech, you can learn and grow. But like a curiosity to kind of like, okay, I want to learn, I want to grow. That mindset is very important to join a startup,
Yes.
because startup is not easy. Like it looks
No.
very cool. Okay, I'm the co-founder, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, or whatever it is on your profile. But honestly, it's like it's haunting. Like it needs like
Yeah.
it's not 9 to 5. If you're looking for a 9 to 5, probably this is not the place. I know work life
Correct.
matters, but not in the startup world. Honestly, like I don't.
Right. Right. And nobody's going to care as much as the founders are, but they have
Exactly.
to still care enough. Yeah.
Right. And if you cared about the company that you are joining, if you cared about, like kind of like the product that we are building or you are building as a startup, and if you resonate with that, probably,
Yeah.
founder will also see that things coming out of you, and your growth journey professionally be like at super exponential rate, honestly speaking, right? And that's how things works in general. It doesn't matter whether you are joining startup or people who are trying to break into VC. Things are like that.
Yep.
Just show what you can do, feel resonate with the product, and then grow. Someone is asking, like, so we have like this show is live at multiple platforms. So if someone comments on LinkedIn, then it will pop up here. But
Oh, okay.
someone is watching directly on our academy page, and I got an email asking, what's the biggest struggle being a solo founder and also a female founder, specifically in the US, that you have struggled so far in your journey, and talk. Please guide us through being a female founder. How was your journey in the CPG specifically, which is very male dominating sector in general? So,
Yeah.
Rebecca, yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, and the statistics, right? Like, female founded companies get 2% of VC dollars, and that those stats are still out there resonating. There's movies, there's everything about it. It's harder. It's statistically harder, but the right VC, the right group is gonna, they're gonna look at the founder more than they're gonna look at the traction sometimes, especially early on. They want to see if the founder, has the grit and loyalty and determination to kind of see this and bring it forward. And I think that's played a huge role for me in this journey. I mean, it's just really tough navigating the CPG space in general. And even though I had this great group out in California, where I'm at in Northwest Pennsylvania isn't a hub for retail or investment dollar, right? It doesn't have like it's not easy access to a lot of different things. And being a solo founder on top of that is it is I'm thankful for my husband who gets to listen to half of what goes on, because without him I don't know what I would do on a day-to-day basis, because you need an outlet of some sort.
Of
Like I've
course.
started a little bit more only in the last year. I was super hyper focused, constantly working like Like if I wasn't sleeping, I was working. And now I'm taking just at least a little time to go for a run in the morning. Stuff that clears your brain in order to kind of reset you for the day. Those are things I was not doing. And I think self-care is such a huge aspect of any founder, because they're going to get burnout, and you're going to get burnout quicker if you're not taking care of yourself in the process. So there's a lot of different things, that make this both rewarding and challenging at the same time. But we all have our own challenges, no matter what side of, the coin we're on.
Of course, you put it in a very right way. Like you need people to listen to you. You need
Yeah.
like people to kind of validate your ideas at times, and that's why sometimes it's needful. It's needed to have a co-founder on the side. But it sounds like
Right.
your husband acting as a co-founder. I mean,
He is. He
not
does.
officially on
Yeah.
the paper, but in general, right? Because
Yes, he definitely does.
yeah, you need to throw out your ideas that popping up in your head. You need a external validation, and that's why, as you mentioned earlier, Rebecca, that being a mentor, having a mentor in your early days, or people having experience in that space, can help you and take you. Can act as a catalyst to take you from step one to step two really faster, because they
Yes.
know the market. They can validate what's thought, whatever the thought coming up in your head, and you can easily validate it, right? And that's why
Yep.
very important being a early stage founder. Surround yourself with the people who are having expertise in that specific area, because sometimes it isn't really necessary to have a domain expertise if you're building specifically
Right.
that
A lot of
specific.
great founders didn't have domain expertise in things that they've done.
Of
So
course,
I don't think you definitely don't have to do that. But also remember too, like, don't you have to filter out the noise, because a lot of people will tell you things won't work or can't work, or and you have to be able to trust yourself too.
my dad always keeps saying, and they have grown up us like me and my sister in a way that, hey, listen to everybody, but do whatever you think's correct. you know
Yep. Yes.
Take all the perspective,
Exactly.
disrespect them, like listen to all the thoughts, put it on the whiteboard. Now you connect the dots, which is really right, which is going to work for me, which
Yes.
is not, because like there's a lot of noise out there. You need to filter it out. That's very important
S-
as well at the same time.
y- Yes.
And also seeing like there are like so-called a lot of self-proclaimed mentor as well. So you need to be
Yeah.
aware of who you can.
Yes, there is. Yeah. There's a lot of people selling services that don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
much
So you
value.
just
Yeah.
need to be mindful, and that's where the role of being a founder and entrepreneur is really going to shine. Who you are onboarding, who you are working with, who are not all the investors the right fit as well. Not all the even the
Sure.
money coming to your bank account is not
Sure.
could be right. It could be wrong as well, because it's
Correct.
like a pain if you don't have the right investor on your cap table, right? So
Yep.
talk to me about
Exactly.
a little bit about your fundraising experience on that line, since we are talking investors, right?
Yeah.
So, how's your
Yeah.
experience like raising funds so far, and who did you raise it from, and at what stage you are at in general? Because I know we have like a couple of investors watching us as well at the same time.
Yes.
So, talk to you a little bit about your fundraising experience so far until today, how much you raised,
Yep.
and how much you're going to raise next, and is the round still open? Is someone is still watching and want to be part of your growth journey?
Oh
Can they
yeah.
invest? How they can invest? Talk to you a little bit about everything about the fundraising right now.
Yep. So yes, our round is still open. Let's put that out there first. We're raising a seed round. It's equity based. We are really mainly, so we've done two things. We have done an equity crowdfunding campaign just in this past year, right? And then we also closed that, and then opened up a seed round, for, so it's been angel investment groups, or individual angels are the ones that we've been targeting. We may still be a little too early for some venture capital. So it really, especially in the CPG arena, I just think it's a tougher arena for venture capital dollars, depending on what you're looking at or where you're at. So that's kind of, it's been an interesting experience. I've worked a lot to kind of, I think it's really, really important to be able to, if you are going to be fundraising, to be able to do your pitch in 60 seconds, in 5 minutes, and if it wants to go longer, and from memory. Like, you should really know and hone your pitch, no matter who you're talking to or when you're talking to them, because I think that's critical. And that was something I actually invested some money in, to work with a group that kind of helped me kind of refine, and then also get out there. And it takes a lot of no's to get a yes. But it's all valuable. It's all a valuable experience. I mean, even those that don't end up not only don't end up investing, but there are a lot that just don't respond even after you have a lot of meetings, like one-on-one meetings. And so it's, we're probably about halfway through the round, which is good, but we plan to close it probably in February or March of 2025.
And how much you raising, by the way?
A million.
A
We're
million.
raising a million. Mhm.
Amazing, cool. So investors, it's a great opportunity to jump on the ride with the amazing, growing CPG company in the US. So Rebecca, since you're talking about like it's consistent persistency being a founder to kind of like keep following up with the investors, that when because you need to be aware of most of the time you'll get a no, or probably they're gonna ghost you. That's very common in general in
Right,
this, right?
right. It
So you need to be
is.
prepared with the mindset that okay, probably you'll not hear back, but if you hear back, how are you gonna pitch, and what's your strategy to kind of convince them as well. But tell me a little bit about how do you filter that who you should reach out to, like what kind of investor are you specifically focusing on? CPG focused fund, CPG focused accelerator, CPG focused angel people, or you are sending out an email to everyone in general? The reason why I'm asking is like for the founders who are watching it, like how they should plan out their fundraising campaign, fundraising, like kind of a strategy in general.
Yes. So I actually go broad, and not strictly focus in the CPG space. There's an advantage and a disadvantage to this, right? Like when I'm focusing on angels that don't necessarily have a lot of CPG or any CPG in their portfolio, they're more apt to want to learn more and not have an idea of what your company should be when they're going in, right? For companies that already have a portfolio of, just all CPG or all beverage companies, they already have seen a lot of trial and error and what's working and what's not working. And that's not always the case for every brand that goes out there, right? Or every company that goes out there. Like it just kind of depends how you're differentiating yourself. And it also allows me to it's nice to get funding from those that aren't necessarily in that space where I can get mentorship outside of that space, from the CPG arena. So I'm not crossing money and advice at the same time. So there's not one reliance on, both, which I think, can kind of work to your advantage. And then, but at the same time, it makes it harder. If they don't have, if they're a tech or manufacturing or a different type of portfolio and they're looking for stuff, it's harder to then convince them that you're the right, company that they should invest in. So I actually have done both, and most of my funding has come outside of the CPG arena.
That's a really fascinating stat that you're giving. Sometime being an early backer of your company, if in angel investment round in general, people prefer to be in the space which is very orthodox, or maybe like age old, old school kind of thing, where they want to learn more with the digitization of this stuff. And the reason why I'm saying so, because I built a company back then. It was a cement e-commerce, so we were selling
Okay.
cement online, disrupting the human-centric supply chain, and digitize the
Yep.
orthodoxy from this entire market, which is like cartel-based business, in general, right? And that was fascinating. Like people were taking more interest. Oh wow, even that can be done. This is really cool thing to kind of like see, and they were like willing to pay money. So I think that's a great point that you bring it up. Like not sometime, most of the time, like the VCs or angel having expertise in CPG is going to be right invested. I mean, sometimes like if someone want to learn more about the domain, they could be your investor and a strategic advisor and brings value from outside
Yep.
CPG and open your eye to go beyond the horizon as well, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Exactly.
that's very fascinating, and it's a good founders not just focus on your domain expertise. VCs reach out to the folks could be like coming from supply chain, if you're in CPG or manufacturing, or maybe like export import kind of thing as well. So Rebecca, before we jump on, I do have a couple of questions that people have been asking.
Okay.
What's your market expansion plan in general? Like, do you see yourself concentrated highly heavily in the US, or at some point you're going to go beyond United States and expand globally as well? What's your plan in general? I know you in 5 years you want to get the company acquired. That's your
Sure.
acquisition plan, but that's your exit
Yes.
plan. But what's your market penetration plan?
Yeah, so right now it's heavily US. However, we have kind of dabbled a little bit. We started a partnership with an export company that focuses in, a variety of countries around the globe, especially ones that are really focused in the non-alcoholic arena. And it was great to kind of get some insight from them. So we're just doing like a couple of shows throughout the year to kind of get a taste for it before we're heavily committed financially, in doing like annual contracts and everything. But it's good to have that because obviously when you have more of a global recognition, you're more desirable in the end to be acquired. So our plan is definitely to go beyond the United States.
Amazing. And what's your uh, quickly, if I touch base a little bit on the brand building strategy, how do you see building the brand in a very competitive market in general? What's your kind of like thought process being founder, like how you can easily brand yourself out so that people are talking about, or building in general, like your domain dominance strategy?
Sure. I think it's a combination. I mean, obviously your brand is key. You need to resonate emotionally with your consumer. And that's a really heavy lift. And especially from when you're still kind of bootstrapping. So it's being very creative and trying to get into targeted resources. But I think the one thing that I've learned, especially in the last year, is not to be everywhere. Like, do not invest all your money in every single social media outlet out there, right? Like, focus on one or two of your top priorities and make those pathways more strategic. I don't know if I lost you, so I wanted to pause for a second.
This is a great strategy, by the way.
Okay.
You can hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's cutting out a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, I need to fix that it. But anyways, thanks for bearing with me. No, I think that's a great point, by the way. Like, not all your audience is in all the social media platform. Let's say probably like in CPG or beverage company, your customer might be sitting just on Instagram. They're not even caring about like LinkedIn. So why you should focus your
Right.
energy on LinkedIn, building your audience there, rather your customers are sitting on Instagram, right? So I think that's a good point that you brought it up. Um, One last thing about your growth journey a little bit, and then one other follow up that I'm popping up in my head right now, and then we'll have like quick questions that is coming through the chat. So what's your growth trajectory? I know you are growing at 200%, 100% year over year. Where do you see the company growing after this fundraise once you close the round that is open right now? Uh, they'll be growing at what rate? And then when you're gonna do the Series A, what's your plan?
Yes. So right now, within the next 3 years, our growth trajectory takes us like 200% to 15 million. That's kind of our plan within 3 years. But then to really kind of to grow double that, right? Triple that. We want to get obviously, at the top level, 50 million would be great in the next 5 years. But it's just kind of we'll do this raise and this raise will help us get to the 15 million, right? Like that'll help us get the trajectory that we need. But at that point, then you kind of have to revisit and determine, and it's also not about diluting it in the process, right? Like you want to make sure both you and your investors are taken care of in the process. And that's something we've looked at critically when we're budgeting out things. Can this money get us to this next threshold? And then at that point, like in between, that's when we start to look and see what we need to get us to that big level.
And when you see the companies doing Series A, by the way,
Hmm.
that will
Oh,
power.
when do I see it?
Yeah, the
I
company
mean,
doing
yeah,
Series
in an
A,
ideal world, it would be, in that third, fourth year. So
third, fourth year. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So that speaks itself, like the way company is growing and people are watching. Because this is the right opportunity, right time to jump on the ride. And how do you have any minimum check size that you are accepting from the investors right now in this round, or it's open for the negotiation?
Right now it's open for negotiation.
Okay, cool, amazing. Well, Rebecca, thanks for sharing all about your growth journey and everything. But before we jump on one or two questions that we have in the chat, what's your probably two giveaways or takeaways, like, or maybe like giveaways for the founders who are watching the show, being a founder, to the founder, for the future founders, because it's recorded today, it will be there out there on the internet forever, right? So people who are watching this 5 years down the line, or maybe today or live right now, what's your big two learnings that you have right now, that kind of mistakes specifically, so that you can learn from you and they'll not repeat the same thing, being a founder, being an early stage founder, or an aspiring entrepreneur in general? Two giveaways.
Yeah, so two giveaways. One, the most important one is to me is grit and grace, right? Like you're going to question yourself on everything that you do, especially as a solo founder or even just a small founding team. But you have to be able to have the ability to make a really smart decision really fast, right? Like, and sometimes those decisions are far more critical in the short term than they are in the long term. But in order to not make those mistakes, just make sure that you're framing it well enough so that you're not, when you make that choice, that you have done your due diligence, so that you're not, it's not costing you something on the back end, right? We can all get paralyzed by decision making processes,
Yeah.
but you can't as a founder, right? Like, you have to make things, you have to make decisions, you have to move on. And I've made a lot of decisions without really thinking about it. And sometimes it just takes that extra moment, and give yourself that extra moment, even if you don't think you have the time, even if it's just to sleep on anything for one night before you do anything big, right? So and then also to give grace to not only yourself, but to those that are around you, the ones that do ghost you, the ones that, turn you down, the ones that, give you negative feedback. We don't know anybody else's journey, and it's only harder on ourselves when we allow that to filter in the negativity or the, that type of thing. So
So what you're saying is like having a growth mindset is very needed, very much needed being a founder,
yes,
and you should be open of like making a wrong decision, like having a growth mindset,
yes,
accept it, move on, connect the dots. As I mentioned earlier, success come from experience, and experience come from bad experiences, right? Like, so you need to have bad
exactly.
experiences, right? And then again,
I've had
like
plenty.
everyone like who are
Yeah,
really successful today in this space in general, they made huge mistakes, so many mistakes, and they learn. And if you're not
yes,
learning, then that's a problem. Then you need to
correct,
talk to someone, right? But
correct.
and second point which you mentioned, like, you need to grace the people who are saying no, who are like, maybe ghosting you, because you never know. Sometime people who said no, they might come back in the future round, and it could be
Right,
like your entire game will be changed being them in your cap table or
right.
in your
Or
journey.
somebody's guiding you in a different direction by saying no.
Exactly,
So
by saying no. Like, and so having a growth mindset is very important being a founder, I think. So great.
exactly.
Thanks for sharing the two, like wisdom with our audience here. We have one
Yes.
question in the chat. Let me see if I can pull it up on the screen. Okay. It's coming from LinkedIn. So Sonali is asking, what strategy do brand promotion companies use to engage their target audience? I don't know if you get
So
it or not. Yep.
yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So I think that the when we use outside companies, one of the biggest things we do are demos, right? So we're in the store, people are, it's like sips to lips is what you call it in the beverage industry. And when people can try your product and and interact with somebody on kind of a more personal level, that really helps, get your loyal base or start to build your loyal base. And then but it doesn't end there, right? So then afterwards, companies can use anything, whether it's email marketing or, rebates and stuff like that, that continue to provide some discount, but also a continual reminder of your brand. And not everything should, I want to clarify, not everything should be a discount that goes out there, right? Because you're building a product that people want, right? And you shouldn't have to discount it all the time. But just little things that continue to keep, the buyer engaged or coming back to purchase more.
I got a text. Someone is asking, can we get any discount code to buy the product directly from your website? So, do you have anything like that? A
You
Christmas
can,
giveaway for
and
the people?
I can send it to you, and you can send it out to your group.
Okay, so people who are watching, just bear with us. You're gonna send that to us, or maybe our team will reach out to you for the discount code, and we'll get it out in our next newsletter.
Absolutely.
So our next
Yeah.
newsletter is dedicated for the brand discounting with our portfolio companies, and you can find the drinks. There you go. That's the perks of
Yeah.
watching this show in the morning, right? So free,
Yeah.
or not free, but I mean like discounted
Oh
non-alcoholic
yeah.
beverage for your Christmas party. Okay.
Yes,
Rebecca,
exactly.
how can people reach out to you? Like, be it the partner, be it investor, or anyone who have any question or concern for you, I want to talk to you. What's your email?
Yes. So
Speak out loud if you want.
yep. My email is Rebecca at blindtigerspiritfree.com. That's all one word, REBECCA at blindtigerspiritfree.com. And then our website is blindtigerspiritfree.com. You can also follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Blind Tiger Cocktails. And we do, a lot of engaging recipes and, things like that as well. So
Amazing. And thank you so much again, Rebecca, for sharing all your insight, your journey about talking about the fundraising, growth, and especially the giveaways. And the best giveaways, the discount code. So people, watch,
Yes, yes.
just keep your eye out on our next newsletter coming out, and we'll have Blind Tiger discount code for you. Thank you again, Rebecca, for your time. Really appreciate it. And
Thank
then
you. Likewise.
people who are watching will back again, either me or Brian, next Monday, same time, same place, virtually, by the way. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks.